Hey, Matthew,
Okay.
hey, Matthew, this is Cindy Lord. Is the executive committee meeting also going to be recorded and uploaded? I know we were unsure about that.
I haven't received clear notice from the clerk's office about that, so I'm going to assume it will be. But
Okay.
I'll let you know if I keep the recording going then.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so welcome to the online meeting. This is Matthew. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. If you hover over your mouse over the main portion of the screen, you'll see the control taskbar appear in the lower third of your screen. The tools you'll need to participate in this meeting are accessed from this ribbon. You'll notice in the middle of the toolbar, you'll see an icon that looks like a microphone. This is the toggle switch to activate your mic during the meeting. We'll use this to turn your mic on and off throughout the meeting. We ask that if you aren't speaking, you mute your microphone to improve overall quality of this meeting. Only the chair should leave their microphone on throughout the meeting. Moving to the toolbar, you'll find the share button. This is used to share your desktop and documents from your computer. You should not need to use this button. Next is the series of dots. This provides access to the system control features that you will not need to access during this meeting as well. The next icon looks like the speech bubble, and this button activates the meeting chat feature. Please push this button to open the meeting panel, which will appear on the right side of the screen, and you will be recognized to speak. You can be recognized to speak during the meeting using this chat feature. You will simply type the word comment or question into the chat feature so the chair can recognize you. If you wish to make or second a motion, you can type in the word motion or second in the chat so that the chair can recognize you. The next icon is the participants button. You can press this to show who is participating in the virtual meeting. The next button, you'll need to use the red phone icon, which was how you will stop your participation in the meeting. Please do not push this button while the meeting is going on unless you need to leave early. Are there any questions? Okay, so before we start this meeting, I want to quickly review some instructions about how this meeting will be conducted. Under the state's open meeting law, all votes during the online meeting must be taken by roll call. This will require each member to activate their microphone to give their vote and turn their mics back off. We're going to participate now. We're going to practice that with the test roll call. I'm going to call roll, and when you hear your name, please activate your mic and let me know that you're present. So I'll test this out with Commissioner Stevens.
Present.
Thank you. So as a reminder, if you would like to be recognized to speak, please type comment in the meeting chat so the chair can call on you. You can go ahead and test that out in the chat feature. Okay, I'm seeing those come through. Okay. Finally, if at any time during this meeting you require technical assistance, please contact your staff board member, that'll be me. If there are not any other questions, I think we're ready to start the meeting in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Matthew. We're going to go ahead and begin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anika Robbins, and I am the chair of the Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. I will now call the meeting to order and ask our Secretary, Commissioner Stevens, to call roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum. Commissioner Stevens?
Thank you, Chair Robbins. Jeffrey Covia.
Here.
Cassandra Shepard.
Here.
Cindy Lord.
Present.
Mary Fee.
Here.
Mariam Mokri. Mariam Mokri. Amy Bergquist.
Here.
Lee Linderman.
Here.
Paul Herkman.
Here.
Jared Widseth. Jared Widseth. Bennett Hartz.
Here.
Janelle Shoemake.
Here.
Cindy Devenish.
Here.
Catherine Stevens is here. So we have 12 commissioners, unless I missed anybody.
Commissioner Woodseth is here. I
Oh.
accidentally pushed the hang up button instead of the mute button, which was just a wonderful way to start the meeting.
Thanks for letting me know. Okay, we have 13 commissioners, unless I missed anybody.
Thank you. Believe that's quorum. We'll proceed with a review of the agenda, which was posted on LIMS on the City of Minneapolis website. We'll allow a minute for you to review, and then we'll ask Secretary Stevens to call roll to approve the adoption of the agenda. Matthew, are you able to upload the agenda, please?
I'm working on it right now.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
This is Commissioner Hartz. I move to accept.
Commissioner Linderman, second.
All right, and for the vote, Cobia,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Lord,
Yes.
B,
Yes.
Bergquist,
Yes.
Linderman,
Yes.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Arts,
Yes.
Shoemake,
Yes.
Devenish,
Yes.
Robbins,
Yes.
Widseth,
Yes.
and I, Commissioner Stevens, also vote yes. Motion passed by consensus.
Thank you. And now we will review our minutes, and hopefully Matthew's helping to upload that as well. These will be the minutes from the October 19th, 2020 meeting. We'll take a moment to review that. After which Commissioner Stevens will do roll call to adopt the minutes, approve them. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Merge on East 12th Street.
Motion by Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you.
Second, Commissioner Herkman.
Thank you. Do we have any abstentions? Okay, roll call, Commissioner Stevens?
Cobia,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Lord,
Yes.
Fee,
Yes.
Bergquist,
Yes.
Linderman,
Yes.
Herkman,
Yes.
Hartz,
Yes.
Schumake,
Yes.
Devenish,
Yes.
Robbins,
Yes.
Widseth,
Yes.
all motion passed by consensus, no abstentions.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens, much appreciated. Okay, Matthew, do we have any members of the public for comment today?
Okay, Commissioner Robbins, we have no one pre-registered, but I'm going to go through and call in the dial-in numbers. So when I call the last 4 digits of your number, please identify yourself and let us know if you have public comment. The number ending in 4121, that's 4121. Can you unmute yourself and let us know if you have any comments?
Yes, this is Dave Bicking, and yes, I do have a comment. The biggest news, of course, is that Director Velma Corbel is leaving the city, and I can hardly tell you how thrilled I am that that is the case. You know, I mostly follow the Office of Police Conduct Review. The results of that has been dismal under her leadership. But looking at the Civil Rights Complaint Investigation Department and the Civil Rights Commission, I've gone over some of this data in the past with you, how, you know, in 2011, her first full year, there were 73 cases that were review panels. By 2017, it had reduced to 2. And she gave no answer as to why that was. Also, that during that period of time, the Civil Rights Commission upheld the director's decision in all 161 cases, according to the data we got. There's only been 1 contested case hearing during her tenure. There's of importance to myself and Communities United Against Police Brutality. There's been a significant drop-off in police complaints. There were close to 30 per year before she started. It was about 15% of your cases. Now it's down to about 1 per year. So there is a lot to do to rebuild the Civil Rights Department after her leaving. I also want to note that looking at the data portal just now, I see there has been very little activity in 2020 in the number of cases and the number of cases closed. I've suggested many times that there should be a survey of complainants and respondents to see their reaction to how cases are being handled. I think this would be an excellent time to do this in order to determine how to rebuild the Civil Rights Department. And finally, guess what? The Islamophobia resolution still is not posted. So a lot of work to do. I hope that the Civil Rights Department can improve dramatically after the departure of Velma Corbel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bicking.
Okay, and the number ending in 3569, can you unmute yourself, identify yourself, and let us know if you have any public comment?
Hi, this is Hallie Shanley here. I have no comment, just listening in.
Okay, thank you. And there is another dial-in number labeled anonymous. I don't know if you have public comment. You can unmute yourself and let us know.
Yes, my name is James Riley. Recently a member of CUAPB this year, learning about different committees in the city. and have issues that I may want to bring at some point regarding technology and my rights. But right now I'm just listening.
Okay, thank you. So I think that'll be all for public comment. Back to you, Commissioner Robbins.
Thank you. And to all our guests, welcome. We're glad you're here. Okay, right now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Representative Rena Moran. She serves District 65A in the St. Paul and Ramsey County communities. She chairs the Health and Human Services Policy Committee and also the Committee on Racial Justice, Health and Human Services Finance Division, Jobs and Economic Development Finance Division, and she also chairs the POCI caucus, which recently passed the Police Accountability Act. And that is one of the reasons why we've invited her to join us this evening to share some of the updates about that important work that she's been co-leading, and then what she sees on the horizon for the upcoming session as our city, our state, and really the country is grappling with these issues of police accountability in our communities. So thank you. We'll turn it over to Representative Rena Moran. Thank you for being here.
So, good evening.
There she is.
It took me a little while here. It's in the evening. I have two dogs, and I'm looking out my window, and so they're barking at everything. So I hope that won't be a big disruption. So, again, my name is Rena Moran, and I represent St. Paul, District 65A. So for anyone who lives in St. Paul or visits St. Paul, I represent the Midway area of Frogtown, the historical Rondo community, a little part of the North End and Cathedral Hill. I am currently going into my 6th term in the legislature, and I'm happy to be here. And so, I really want to hear more about what it is you guys do, because I don't know much about what it is that you do too. But I think do you want me to just talk about the police accountability bill, or is there any specific questions you might have, or?
We'd like you to share kind of the work that you've done and the pieces of the Accountability Act that passed, and then some of the things that you probably would have liked to have seen, and then what is the work that's remaining. And so to quickly answer your question about what the commission is doing, immediately following Mr. Floyd's murder by MPD, we set about creating a policing and civil rights task force. We've met with Chief Rondo here in Minneapolis and some of our city council representatives, but we're seeing that there's somewhat of a disconnect in how policies are made. And we know that some of them are made at the state level that govern all of us in our different districts and wards and whatnot. So we're interested to hear how your work, the impact that it could have on a municipal level. What are some of the wins from the last session around your work with the Police Accountability Act? And then where is there more work? And then what are some things that our constituents, your constituents can do to keep that conversation at the forefront?
Okay. So let me just start off by saying that in the legislature, we are a divided government. We have a Democratic House and we have a Republican Senate. We are the only legislature in the country to have a divided legislature, the only one. And so what that means is that in order to pass a bill, you have to have bills heard in the House and in the Senate, and you have to agree before those bills can ever pass off the House floor and be signed by the governor to become law. So that's the process. And so after the murder of George Floyd at the hands of a police officer, and the outcry that we saw from Minnesotans across the state, but also the outcry that we've seen across this country and across the world. It was clear to us in the Minnesota legislature, in the House anyway, that it was important that we begin to move some legislation around the use of force and other things. And so what we realized as the People of Color Indigenous Caucus, which we led the effort and we carried the bills that were included in the Minnesota Police Accountability Act of 2020, is that there were many policies that needed to be introduced and passed, right? You can look across the country and you can see some states who have moved, a chokehold bill, maybe a use of force bill, maybe created some type of working group to do something. But we realized that the breadth of what needed to be done here in the state of Minnesota was great. And we didn't want to just do one or two different things. And so we created, from that, we introduced 18 bills. There was a total of 18 bills, and they was broken down into 3 categories. And so the first category was reclaiming community oversight. And it was about putting power into the hands of the people and neighborhoods that police officers are sworn to serve and protect. And under that was 8 provisions. It was to prohibit the warrior training, ban chokeholds, a duty to intercede, police residency reform, a data collection and regulatory reform, arbitration reform, and a retroactive repeal of statutes of limitation for the families who loved ones have been murdered by the hand of a use of force. The second category was reforming accountability. And what that meant was restoring confidence and trust in the systems that are meant to provide justice for all Minnesotans. And under that was the use of force bill, the prosecutory reform bill, the investigatory reform, and cash bail was under reforming accountability. And then the third category we call reimagining public safety. We have to reimagine what that looks like. And that would be ending the unacceptable culture that is responsible for the murder of George Floyd and far too many others who look like him. And under that, there was 6 provision, was a public safety peer counseling debriefing, police officer critical incident review, community-led public safety, mental health training, autism training, and restore the vote. So those were the breadth of the bills that we introduced on the House side. On the Senate side, they also introduced bill. I think they introduced 5 bills, sort of, kind of. And so what happened was that we took a Saturday and all day, I think we started like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, I don't know. We went to like all the way into the evening and we introduced every bill. We openly discussed every bill in the Minnesota House. We had testifiers on all the bills, and there were individual legislators of color who were carrying each part of the bill. The 2 bills that I carried, were the 3 bills, were the chokehold ban, the use of force bill, and restore the vote was the 3 bills that I carry. And so what we had to do were we passed those bills, all 18 provisions off the House floor. And then we sent those 18 bills over to the Senate for them to also look at and debate and decide how they wanted to move forward on police accountability. It was late in the session. I think this was like maybe 2 or 3 days before we were committed to end session. Constitutionally, we have a end date that we have to end on that date. And so we introduced these bills, I think it's the weekend of the final hours of session being held. And we waited for the Republicans to respond, and it took a little while for that to happen. And eventually we sine-die without any negotiation happening at all. Well, yeah, pretty much. We waited on them. We did some counter offers. They never came back to the table, and then we finally died. And so during a special session, we came back together to begin to work on the 18 bills, and, with the Republicans to talk about the 5 bills that they wanted to pass. And many of the Republican bills were just passing it on to the post board and let the post board deal with it. And that was something that we did not want to do, because the post board has, over the last 40 years, have had an inherent power that they just have not been using in keeping holding police accountable. So we didn't want them to shift it over to the post board. We really wanted to have some language and statute. And so from the 18, and eventually it did happen and it did pass. Of the 18 bills that we put forth, 11 of those bills became law. Those bills that became law was prohibiting the warrior training, the chokehold ban, the duty to intercede, which means, warrior training was a training that police officer, it was banned, but the police unit was using them anyway. And it was a training that allows police officers to encounter community members and see community members as the enemy, which means that the concept that they brought to their encounters was let's kill before we are killed, right? And so that's what we were seeing, all that excessive use of force. I've been in meetings like this all day. The chokehold ban is just what it is. Anything that blocks the airway and it causes someone to become unconscious should be banned totally. The duty to intercede, that means intercede if the officer is seeing something happening, they have a duty to stop and intercede, right? Police residency reform, we really believe that police officers should live or be a part of the community in which they are policing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that even more, because we know that's important. Because when I talk to my Republican colleagues, and for those legislators who are in the exurbs, some suburbs, but the rural community, the one thing that they say to me all the time is that, who they love their police officers, right? And love them because they're part of the community. They went to school together. Their kids go to school together. They go to church together. They know each other. So we know how important it is to have police connected to the community that they are patrolling. We want to do some data collection and some regulatory reform that pass on arbitration, because right now when police are using excessive force and they are called on that, often they instead of being fired, they would just say, I'm going to step down, and so they just do that so that there would be no they won't be reprimanded for that. And then the union will come in and save them. So we wanted to change that process, because we believe, and I think my Republican colleagues also agree, that police officers are given an inherent privilege and right to serve and protect and carry a gun. And so for unions, it's not like, you want to have a good livable wage job and have good insurance. It's a little bit more of a responsibility for police officers. The use of force became law, and the investigatory reform became law. Public safety peer counseling, because we know that police officers are being, they go through some really hard times. They are seeing people die. They are participating in that. And if they are being traumatized by that themselves, then they should have a chance to sit back and get some help and get some counseling for that. Otherwise, it shows up in other ways, in our community. We wanted them to have some training around mental health, because 50% of the use of force is happening when someone is going through a mental health crisis. So they need to be able to know what that look, and maybe not even show up for that. Autism training. Autism is not mental health. It's a whole different type of training. And so those were the bills that became law that passed. The biggest hurdle of getting the bills passed was the use of force bill. And that was one of the biggest tension between maybe myself negotiating with the Minnesota Association of Police Chief, the Minnesota Associations of Sheriffs, and the Minnesota Association of Police and Peace Officers. And so it was really the Minnesota Association of Police and Peace Officers who were really against changing the language that's currently in statute around the use of force. Currently, the language, well, the language before we changed the language was if there's an apparent threat and someone, if they knew someone had committed a felony, that they could use excessive force. And so we wanted to take out the word apparent threat, and we wanted to insert, it had to be an imminent threat. And because a apparent threat is so subjective,
That's
right? The police officer can say, oh, I was scared, or I thought someone had a gun, or I feared for my life. You know, so just using that subjective type of language was not okay. And so we wanted to just remove that language and then insert the word imminent threat. And that was the biggest contention because police officer thought, oh, what, you know, you would use of force. What would a reasonable person do, right? It is not best because you feel like something is going to happen. It has to like actually be a threat, right? And so after much going back and debating back and forth, and you know, for me, I didn't want to keep that word, that one word apparent, the two words apparent threat. My senators and officers did not want to use the word imminent. They didn't want to replace the word imminent with apparent. So after much back and forth, they didn't understand what imminent threat meant. So we had to define it. We found some definitions from the FBI that was used. They had to define what an imminent threat was. Police officers out of Chicago had a definition, pretty much the same definition around imminent threat. So we found that language. We introduced it to the police officers and my Senate colleagues. And we were stuck there. We were stuck because, again, they just didn't like that imminent threat and what it represented. But they could agree with the definition of imminent threat. There was three definitions for imminent threat. They agreed with the definitions, but they did not want to insert the word imminent threat into statute. And so eventually, in the final hours of going back and forth, we realized that I didn't like apparent, they didn't like imminent. So you know what? We decided not to use either one of those words, but instead insert the definitions that we could agree upon. And that's what we did. And once we inserted those three definitions for imminent threat, I was able to get the executive director of the police officers to agree with the language around the use of force. And so of all the things, I think just having that language change around the use of force will save people's lives. And many of these other provisions, you know, we believe that it would make a difference in how police show up and whether or not someone, whether it's the police officer who gets to go home and live another day, or the person they encounter who would be able to, you know, live another day, go to lockup, you know, be handcuffed and put in a squad car, all the things they need to do, but they would get to live another day. So we did all this work, especially around the use of force and the chokeholds, through the lens of the sanctity of life and human rights, validating that the sanctity of every human life is important. And that is how they will operate through those lenses. And that's where we were. So where do we go?
That is great. Yes, thank you.
So where do we go from here? So the expectation would be, because we are still in a divided legislature,
yes,
you know, we realize that even with all this work that we did, that it's not enough. That, you know, we can do more. That it's important that we continue to hold police accountable when they break the law, when they use excessive force, because we also know that not every cop is a bad cop, right? We do know, though, when a bad cop shows bad behavior, they make good cops look bad. We know that when bad cops show up and do things that are inappropriate, they make the institution of policing look bad. And for that reason, and for that person, that we know that we all are held accountable to something. When you break a law, when you use excessive force, there needs to be some accountability in place. And even for police officers who are there to serve and protect, who have an inherent right that no one else has, to be able to, show up that way and use excessive force, that when it's done inappropriately, they have to be held accountable. And so we still got more work to do, right? So we're working with the post board to make sure that the post board is using the power that they have. We created a steering, I think we called it a steering committee that is outside of the post board. And for us, it was really important that we add more community members to the post board. We wanted to add, I think we wanted to add like 5 more community members to the post board. That didn't happen. Police officers, I mean, they pushed back and they pushed back. I think, and I can't quite remember whether or not we was able to add 1 or 2 more additional community members to the post board, but we also created a steering committee. And the steering committee there is more community members on the steering committee than they are police officers, because we really felt that it was really important that we get community members and police officers to the table to talk, to hear, to see each other, and to just move away from their own space of how they think things needs to be. Because if you're not communicating, if you're not listening, if you're not seeing the humanity in each other, then we're just going to be stalled, right? And so I think that having that steering committee who also are able to add items to the post board agenda is also going to be really helpful to bring in that community voice, that community insight into the post board, where we don't have, an overriding number of community members as part of that post board. So that's where we still need to do more, but I don't know what more we can do or what more we will do. We will introduce more bills.
Okay.
We will do that. There's still some work that we need to do. We still think that we need to work around things like cash bails. There's no reason for someone to be sitting in jail because they don't have $150 or $100 to get out of jail. They lose their job. Sometimes they lose their housing. It is no reason why for some of those charges that there should be no cash bail at all. Right? So we're going to do something like around that. We're looking at the restore the vote. There's no reason why if you served your time, you're back out in the community, that immediately you should not have the right to vote. It makes sense. And we want to look at more of utilizing some community-led public safety initiatives, because police officers really don't need to show up for every instance, for every call. They really don't, so having those partnerships with community and law enforcement, I think, is also a necessary avenue that we really need to be able to incorporate in really strengthening communities, strengthening relationships, but also recognizing that police officers don't need to be a part of every call that comes through.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Before we open it up for questions, we also know that we had one of our commissioners reach out to you regarding the Crown Act. Are you able to speak to that just briefly about the status of that?
So, like most things, so the Crown Act passed off the House floor, right? And so the Crown Act inserted and made, let me get this right. So it allows natural hair like twists twist braids, and there's one other.
That's
What is it?
dreadlocks.
And dreadlocks, right?
Okay.
To gosh, I wish I had wrote down the proper language for that. So right, gosh, I wasn't
Will
ready.
this be on your page? Will this
Pardon
be,
me?
is it on your page?
It is on my page, and I may have it, but I have to go over there and look at my folder and get it. So, but it allows so that natural hair twists and dreadlocks cannot be discriminated against, right? Because what we found was that people who are wearing their natural hair, I mean, we had a huge amount of testimonies from people who came in and said that, I was told in order to get this job, I needed to cut my dreadlocks. All right. We have folks who would say that, I am, that my daughter was in school and all her little white friends was teasing my child because of her natural hair. And the teacher did nothing to interject or to stop the teasing of that. Right. That would now be unlawful, and you will have to intercede and do something. Or someone can not say, well, in order to get this job, you need to straighten your hair, or you need to cut your hair, or, we just have to respect the dignity of the natural hair. And so that would be a protected class hair. Natural hair would be a protected class.
Wow, that's great.
And so it did pass off the House floor. It did not get a hearing in the Senate at all.
So where does that leave it?
So that means that, again, in order for a bill to become law, it has to pass off the floor in the House, and it has to pass off the floor in the Senate in order to go before the governor to be signed into law. So anything that did not pass this session, including the Crown Bill, is now dead, and it has to be reintroduced in 2021.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm good. I know Commissioner Shoemake has been leading that, but I'm going to kind of pull rank here a bit and ask a question. The arbitration bill did not pass, is that correct?
So the arbitration reform did.
It did pass.
Yeah, it is part of the package that did pass.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good to know. Okay, since we just finished talking about Crown Act, Commissioner Shoemake, do you have any questions for Representative Moran?
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Robbins. Commissioner Moran, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Knowing that it didn't get through the Senate this session, I guess just thinking proactively, if there are things that we can do to support the next bill that you'd be introducing, our small body, but if there are things that we can do, we have talked about having a community conversation, which I think would still be relevant and maybe increase some awareness for that upcoming bill.
Yeah. So yes, I don't know how, this is a Minneapolis school a commission, right? And so we need a statewide coalition, right? We need legislators in the Senate needs to be educated on this, because they were keenly unaware of any discrimination that happens with natural hair, right? So if you're not being discriminated against, you think discrimination is never happening. And so part of this is the educational piece. A part of this is I believe in the power of the people, the power of community to stand up and create a process where you are forcing us to do the right thing, because injustices are happening and they are real. And so for folks who have friends out in Rochester or St. Cloud, you have allies out there, we need to get constituents in to talk to their legislators about a bill like the Crown Bill. You can inundate and make some phone calls and send an email to Representative Limmer. Now, I don't know what committee he's going to have next session, but all the bills that I introduced around racial equity went to the Senate to die. They got no hearing. They all just died. And so it's going to really take that type of will. Had it not been for the protesting and the marching, not only here in Minnesota, not only here within our country, but across the world. I don't think that the Republicans would have ever come to the table as that been a priority for them, because it was not a priority for them. It just simply was not, and so let's just start with educating legislators about the issues that are impacting our community disproportionately. In the Crown Act, sharing your stories. Stories are powerful. We sometimes want to give them some statistics and some, find some empathy, but sometimes that stuff just doesn't work because it just doesn't work for them, right? But stories, no one can never negate your story and your experience, what you have experienced. And so stories are powerful that we just need to utilize more often to help people see beyond what they know or don't know.
Thank you. We'll now open it up for questions from the broader commission regarding the Police Accountability Act, or any questions you have for Representative Moran. You can type comment, I believe is the.
Wow, no questions. Okay, good. No.
Commissioner Lord.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I've learned so much from you. I'm wondering if you can provide any insight into the requirements for implementation of the bills that were passed into law. Is there a time frame by which time the various initiatives have to be implemented?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things, because we inherently changed the whole use of force concept, right? And so we want every police officer across the state of Minnesota to be trained in the new language about when you cannot use the use of force, right? Or once again, retrain them around a chokehold bill and a ban and what is not permitted at all. And so according to the conversations that we had with like the Commissioner of Public Safety, Commissioner John Harrington, and other professionals who was at the table around how long they thought it would take for everyone to be trained. So for the training portion of this pieces, that training needs to be done for every police officer, I believe, by March of 2021. Right. So things like taking some of these bills and the duty to intercede probably is immediately. I don't know the effective date, but some of this probably came effective the day that it was signed. Some may have become effective, 2 months later after it was signed by the governor. Let's see, probably things like the police residency reform. I think that's something that cities can now begin to, which is just giving individuals an incentive to, to live in the municipality in which they work. We could not pass a bill that required police officers to live in the municipality that they worked, even though we think that's a good thought, right? We could not get that agreement from the Republicans. So instead of saying requiring them, we asked them, we said we could give them some in cities an incentive to encourage officers to live in the municipalities. And the cities can be whatever they decide that they can afford. Maybe a moving stipend. If you move, we're gonna cover that, So it's up to them. But now they have, although some thought that maybe they could do it, now that the language in the statute, they know that that local municipalities can do it now. So there's different starting dates from different parts of it, but definitely for the training, we push that out a little bit more just to make sure that every police officer had the opportunity to be trained in a timely manner.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lord. Any other questions?
I have a question. I'm sorry. This is Vice Chair Devenish, and thank you, Representative Moran, for all your hard work and dedication in the community. I currently work at Ramsey County and Child Protection, so I have read your African American Preservation Act. It's one of my Bibles when working with CPS. And if I encounter a community member who's having issues, I always encourage them to please read the Preservation Act and to please contact you.
Oh, that's why everyone's
So,
been contacting me, huh? Yes, they
yes,
do. They absolutely do.
definitely. But what other advice would you have for CPS workers or those families who are dealing with CPS interaction?
So what I would like to do, and some of those provisions within the African American Family Preservation Act became law, like creating a pathway for kids lingering in foster homes to give those parents a pathway to go back and get their parental rights reestablished. That is important, right? Kids should not be aging out of a system. It just should not happen. We wanted social workers and others to be trained through a to a cultural competent type of lens. That would now be a part of the new training process that is now being created. There was one more provision right now that I can't remember the other provision within the African American Family Preservation Act that also, it was 3 provisions that was included in that. And so we want to continue to do that. I am a strong parent advocate. And I think, kids, I think families have hard times. And I think that we need to, invest more in supporting parents and giving parents some of the tools they need. Because kids are sometimes removed from home for, reasons that I think if the family just had a wash machine or something in their house because the kids are coming to school dirty or something, kids are being removed, right? Or a social worker going to their home and they see that there's no food in the refrigerator. Well, there could be many reasons why that's the case, but we need to do more, support of families. As long as we're not talking about egregious cases, right? For neglect, there are some other things that we can do. I was able to pass a bill to give support to a community nonprofit that is helping parents walk through the system, right? These are parents, them too, who've also gone through the system, who can walk side by side with another parent whose children have been removed, because we have a complicated system. We have an inundated system that, who can do that all by themselves. So we want to continue to have processes like that helps parents who are in need, who have their kids removed, to also have a support system for them to navigate the child welfare system. I also passed a comfort call bill where within the first 72 hours of a child being removed from their home, this is new and it's scary for many foster parents, really, but it just makes sense. We're talking about the well-being of kids, that the foster parent and the birth parent, if at all possible, within the first 72 hours, they're on the phone talking to each other. And they're asking each other, did this child have a favorite blankie at home or a favorite toy? What do they have an allergy that I need to know about? And they're asking the parent that. And so it's beginning to build a relationship between a foster parent and a birth parent, because foster parents should not be in the business of being a foster parent just to adopt one day. It should be for reunification.
That's right.
So, right. So those first 72 hours is really critical, because the child is, they're in home with strangers. They don't know these people. I don't care how nice they are. They don't know them. And then parents are, often, kids are removed from the home. They have no idea where they are. If they can just have an opportunity to find out where their kids are, share some good information about their child, they can focus on what they need to do, with the hope that if they do what they need to do, that reunification will happen. Because right now there's a lot of tension that happens because, of course, parents believe that the system is just there to take their kids away from them. And often it does just that. So we want to keep on working on, a system that is more proactive, more community focused, more, led by through a front end process, and not a process that is really just consistently demonizing parents. And I'm not saying that parents don't do bad things. and should not be held accountable for that neither. I am not saying that, but we know the trauma that happens.
That's right.
I mean, that happens when kids are removed from their homes. That some says that it's worse than losing a limb sometime. And so let's do what's in the best interest of children.
Right. Thank you so much, Representative
Thank you.
Ramirez. Yeah, we appreciate you, and I have a ton of questions, but in the interest of time, we're going to have to end it there. Thank you so much. I know that you have been very busy working in all of our interests, and so we appreciate you taking the time out to come and share some of that work with us. And I would definitely be reaching out to you to learn more about how I can support your efforts. But you've given us a lot to consider as we prepare our own report around our work with policing and civil rights. So thank you so much.
So I'm just going to say one thing. I want to say thank you, but I also want to say this. I am a strong believer as a legislator that it is policies and that create practices that keep our community in a place.
That's right.
We have to have our policies align up with our values and what we think is right. And so in saying that, what I would love for any and all of the commissioners and for your listening audience is that I believe that those who are impacted by system have good solutions about what we need to do to make them better. Please, going into a 2021 session in an era where we're going to have a huge deficit at the Capitol, we know it's the things that we care about that's usually on the chopping block first.
Yep.
We declared racism as a public health crisis. I'm co-chairing that committee along with Representative Ruth Richardson. We're going to bring some recommendations forward. I need your help. That's how bills are created. Bills are created by people who have good ideas and they come and say, we need to change the law. Bring me your good ideas and let's see how we can work together to create a more fair and equitable system here in the state of Minnesota.
I love it. Thank you so much, ma'am. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was impactful. But to keep this train rolling, we're going to go right into our standing committee reports. And we'll start off with our Standards and Procedures Committee, please.
Good evening. This is Cassie Shepard, and we unfortunately did not meet this last month. We had scheduled our meeting, but right before the meeting, it had to be canceled because it was scheduled on Veterans Day, which I was unaware we were unable to meet on a federal holiday. So we have rescheduled our meeting for November 23rd at 5:30 via Zoom, and we welcome anybody that has input on our conflict resolution policy to participate in that meeting.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Shepard and Commissioner Fee, for your work on that and everyone else in that committee. Please issue the invitation, send it through Matthew. We want to make sure that any commissioners, including myself and Commissioner Stevens and Devonish, can attend. All right, next committee, Workforce and Contract Compliance Committee.
Hey, this is Jeff. I don't know if Laylee's on, but I had another meeting with Frank and Kayla, which went really, really well. We had some good discussion about how we can turn our ideas and I don't know, our goals into more concrete steps. And I had planned to have a discussion with the subcommittee about that after, but unfortunately we again did not meet, so we did not get a chance to discuss that. But as soon as we can have a meeting, I am ready to discuss that.
Thank you. All right, Community Engagement and Research Committee.
Hi, this is Commissioner Lord. I do not want to steal the thunder from Commissioner Berquist, who I believe will be talking at some length about the debrief on the UN's Universal Periodic Review event. But our committee, specifically Commissioner Stevens, Commissioner Herkman, and Commissioner Mokry, supported that event both with technology, facilitation skills and questioning skills, as well as work in actually participating in that initiative. And we held the event, gosh, was it last Thursday, I guess. It seems.
On the 12th.
Thank you, on the 12th. I think attendance was not super high, but I think as we learned with our chat with the police chief, that we also have a whole second life online with respect to views and engagement. I would like to just call out Commissioner Berquist, because I'm sure she won't say this about herself, was absolutely amazing in her mastery of the information. And this also intersected with our police work, our police task force work, as many of the topics and the feedback that she highlighted in the conversation were related to policing and racial equity. So I think we learned a lot in terms of kind of the global perspective on this topic in our community. Some other things that are going on with the committee. I know that Commissioner Simenez was collecting pictures for the bios as well, and Commissioner Devenish also provided 900 masks to the Circle of Discipline. I think she has 500 masks remaining. And we are going to be meeting next Tuesday with the idea of kind of, I think, having a final conversation about what we still want to accomplish this week and not this week, this year, and kind of package up kind of a final deliverable for the year. I do also just want to call out that, and I don't think Libby's in the meeting today, but I think this will be one of Commissioner Simenez's last meetings. And I just really wanted to call her out and thank her for her leadership on this committee, which will, not be, which will miss her greatly. She's been a tremendous leader on the committee and the heart of it, and we will miss her very much. So hopefully she'll be back next month so we can re-say that. Does anyone else on the DENR committee want to add anything, or is there anything I missed?
I had some good feedback via email and from people in the community who watched the task force or saw it later. So I think it was something that was informative, and people who maybe didn't know about it but were able to hear more thought that Amy and Paul and Miriam did a really good job.
Sounds good. I thought everyone sounded and looked great, and I thought it really made our commission look really good. It was nice to see us presenting on things happening around the world. And so I just want to thank everyone for their role in pulling that together. I thought it came off really well. So thanks to all the commissioners involved with that. Okay, any other comments, Commissioner Lord?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that kind of touches on some of the policing and civil rights work. And so, we'll be pulling together our reports on that hopefully soon. And so now we'll turn it over to Commissioner Berquist and other members of her work for her task force to share an update. The UN task force, please.
Sure. Hi. Thank you to Commissioner Lord for her kind words. The basic update is that the Universal Periodic Review of the United States happened 1 week ago today, and the 116 countries spoke on the floor of the Human Rights Council. Each country had 55 seconds. And 47 of those countries decided to use some of those 55 seconds that they were allotted to speak about police violence and accountability and structural racism within policing. So that was a great deal of attention to the issue. Specifically, Argentina mentioned the name of George Floyd, calling on the United States to adopt legal and administrative measures to carry out the investigation and punishment of cases of discriminatory police practices, including measures to stop murders such as that of George Floyd. So that was really meaningful. It's pretty unusual that at the floor of the Human Rights Council, a particular individual is named. So that was really powerful to me. So as you've heard, we did the debriefing on Thursday. I think it went just fine. I think it's still posted on our Facebook page. So if you want to hear more about what happened, you can watch that, or I'm happy to answer questions. In terms of next steps with respect to United Nations activities, one thing we could think about is whether we want to identify particular recommendations that we want to encourage the incoming administration to accept. And they will have until March of 2021 to make that decision. So it could be something as simple as a letter on behalf of the commission to the incoming administration, highlighting particular recommendations that we think are meaningful. That would be a sort of natural follow-up to the work that we've already done. And there, of course, will be additional opportunities to engage with the United Nations in 2021, but that's probably the most it's not particularly time sensitive because the administration hasn't taken office yet, but that would be a logical next step for us.
What is your time frame for that? If you were to pull something together around that?
I think right now is probably too early to be reaching out to the incoming administration, but if we have something ready to go by the time of inauguration, I think that's probably a good time to be reaching out.
Okay. Well, keep us posted and let us know how we can support you. I think I'm in support of that.
Thank you.
Any questions for Commissioner Berquist? Anyone from the committee? Okay. Thank you. And now we'll hear from Vice Chair Devenish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if we can have time to discuss it. Dr. Raj update. Is that possible to discuss that, or
we can.
Is Frank on
old business? I didn't know if you want to just share like bulleted highlights of certain things, but you tell me.
No, I'm just asking if Frank is on the line, if he could give an update on where we're at with possibly having Dr. Raj in. Well, he must not be on the line. And then I wanted to know or ask if we could have an update on the Islamophobia resolution.
The Islamophobia resolution is done. Due to COVID, Director Reed and I have not been able to connect. I believe I need to sign the document, and we'll try to get that done sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. And if anybody's interested, I do have extra masks if anybody wants to give them out to community members, and I did ask for more to pass out to community members. I'm thinking about hospitals, homeless encampments, regarding the mask distribution. And question, can our urban scholars work with the Civil Rights Commission so we can create possibly a junior commission and teach youth some leadership skills and education on civil rights?
Okay. Is Director Reed on the line?
Yes, Madam Chair, I am. I was on before, but I just had trouble with my button. But that is something that I can bring up with Cassidy Gardenier, who oversees the Urban Scholars Program. I can see what can be done there. Happy to meet with you, Vice Chair, to see what the way forward on something like that could be. I'm not sure what the possibilities are, but it seems interesting.
Okay, thank you. And then the first question was regarding Dr. Raj.
Yeah, I don't know what update I can give on that. I know that it's been talked about here recently, but I'm open to the discussion.
Okay, well, hopefully we can connect and talk about that. And this is to the commission as a whole. If we could do something to recognize outgoing commissioners, maybe create a letters of appreciation. Also, if they're interested in recognizing commissioners who have served for more than 3 years, send letters of appreciation as well. So I don't know if we want to open the discussion to that. And another question is discuss unused budget. Can we use the unused budget for services rendered? Okay. So let's open it up for discussion on the first one, right? On the acknowledgement of commissioners. So do we have any questions or comments on that? And then we can take it to a vote.
This is Commissioner Fee. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Anyone else? Don't be shy.
Commissioner Shoemake also thinks it's a really great idea.
Anyone opposed to it? Okay, so should we bring it to a vote? Does someone, do you want to present a motion to adopt that, Vice Chair? Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to put forth a motion to recognize commissioners that are leaving the commission for their wonderful service and those who have served for more than 3 years.
What?
I'm sorry. Does someone have a comment? Okay.
Would you like me to call the vote?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Do you need a
Cobia?
sec?
Oh, yes, probably.
We probably do need a second. Do you need a second?
Cindy Lord.
Okay. Was that a second, Cindy? I'm sorry. I'm hearing a lot of background.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Cindy Lord. I second it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Stevens?
Thank you. Cobia.
Yes, go Bears.
Shepherd.
Yes.
Lord.
Yes.
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 Linderman.
Yes, go Vikings.
Here we go.
I am gonna leave. Herkman.
Someone says Packers, it's a wrap. Continue.
Yes.
Hearts.
Yes, go Pack, go.
Shoemake.
We are not Packers fans in this household, so we can approve the motion.
Devonish.
Yes to the bill, and also I just want to say go Packers. I third that motion.
Commissioner or Chair Robbins.
Yes.
Widseth. Commissioner Widseth.
Yes.
And Commissioner Stevens also votes yes.
Great. Motion passed. Thank you, Vice Chair Devonish. So the next item is what now? My apologies.
The unused budget, I believe.
Oh, yes. So that we do need Director Reed for.
Yes, Madam Chair. What is your question?
Vice Chair Devonish has a question regarding being able to access unused portions of the budget.
this has been an ongoing conversation between you and I regarding what the budget is. But I'll let Vice Chair Devenish present.
Yes, that is my question. I don't know if you want to discuss that at a later time or if you feel okay sharing that information.
Well, I think it's appropriate to discuss at a later time. I would like to include our chief of staff in that. I did have a conversation with him about it. He's open to having a meeting so we can talk about the nuts and bolts of the budget. As you know, those budget discussions are ongoing. There's something before the city council here earlier this week, and it's going forward. So just know that we're open to the conversation, but there's still work to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Vice Chair?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your work. I think that it's great and honorable that you galvanized and coordinated with the city to get the masks and get those distributed out to the city, to all the residents. We know that COVID-19 is rising nationwide. And so I think that your efforts were timely and much appreciated, and it's a good look for the commission. So thank you so much for your service. Okay. Moi. Let's see, lots happening right now. I'll be brief. I continue to be thankful for those of you who show up, who participate and bring your energy, your brain wealth, and your commitment to the commission. Thank you for that. I know that the year is tough with COVID, and it doesn't seem like we're going to be out of its grip for any time soon. I do want to reach out to all of the chairs of the various committees and encourage you to start compiling a year-end report. The Policing and Civil Rights, the UN Task Force, Workforce and Contract Compliance, Standards and Procedures. We want to try and conclude all of the tasks in our business by the December 21st meeting. I'll be reaching out to each of you as well to see how I can provide any support or guidance. So just keep that on your radar. The other thing is that we will be having elections coming up in January or February, weather permitting. Well, depends. We'll probably still be in quarantine. But those of you who are thinking of maybe running for office and leading, co-leading, supporting the governance of the commission, I encourage you to do so. Don't be shy. Start thinking about it. If any of you have any questions or are considering something, please feel free to reach out. I have an open email policy. And I understand that we have quite a few great candidates to serve in the 2021 cohort. I've been able to participate in a few of the interviews. I believe a few of you have, and I know Frank will probably share more around that. But that's it for comments for me. Just so any of the business around budget, payment, and several other items, I want you to know, and I want it on record that I have been asking and advocating for these things since the beginning of my term. And so just know that we have been advocating for that. We have completed a few panel reviews. I had the opportunity to serve on one with with Commissioner Mokery and Commissioner Hartz. And so it was good. I believe we have a few more that we've completed as well. So I think that we're in a good place with those. And I think that we have a few more coming up, but we are working at the pace that the pandemic allows. So we appreciate your patience. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. And then I'll turn it over now. Well, I'll open it up. Does anyone have any questions for me now? Okay. Now we will hear from the Civil Rights Department and the Director of the Complaint Investigations Division.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to start with some updates on the open appointments. Right now, there are 12 viable applicants. We received a few more, but some were sort of weeded out because they lived outside of the city of Minneapolis, and a few did not respond when we tried to set up interviews. The interview process began on 11/9, although the class closed on the 13th. We wanted to try to get a jump on interviews so we would create enough of an opportunity to go before the council and get approval of our list. So we figured the more time, the better. Thus far, with the help of many of the commissioners in doing the interviews, which has been really helpful, noting that there's a high quality of applicants. So I'm looking for the new slate of commissioners to be very good and ready to go. I wanted to note that it's really with a heavy heart that I note that Velma is leaving the office. And she's been a great mentor to me for many years. I've known her since she started. And that at some level, I wanted to note that her background is just full of amazing accomplishments. And I'll just read just a couple of them, just so you all have food for thought. She started all the way back in June 1st of 2010, which, wow, the time just flew by. At a time where there were a number of directors for the Civil Rights Department, and there needed to be some stability. And she lended stability, obviously, from that time all the way up to the present. And one of her accomplishments right off the bat was there was a huge backlog at that time of cases pending before the Complaint Investigations Division. She was able to knock that backlog down from 300 cases, which is amazing to me, to an acceptable level, and has been able to maintain it ever since. She led a disparity study, which resulted in some groundbreaking inclusion of Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned businesses, and helped them in ways that allow them to have contracting rights with the city of Minneapolis. She caused more than $150 million to be earned by those same businesses during that time, which is amazing. And she also began the Urban Scholars Program, which, for those who don't know, is a leading career development program geared to assist students of color with their future endeavors. And it gives them an opportunity to be active in the city of Minneapolis and the things that we do. That is groundbreaking for so many young people out there. So I wanted to pay special attention to Velma and her accomplishments tonight, let her know that she will be missed. I also wanted to let you all know that I will be the interim director of the department. I'm looking at my feet right now. I'm looking down at my desk. It's like I've got these big shoes I've got to fill. I don't see my feet growing anytime soon, but I'm hoping that you will all, help me forward in all of this. I plan to maintain my relationship with the commission and continue to work with you all on a daily basis. So I just wanted to let you all know that no changes that I can see as far as our relationship. We'll continue to work forward and do all those good things that we have as goals going forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for definitely sharing. I know sometimes we miss some of those finer details, especially when people have been doing it for so long. And Velma's career is illustrious and she will be missed. And thank you for that tribute to her. But I'm sure that all of us will join me, all of the commissioners will join me in welcoming you into that role. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have the Director of Contract Compliance here?
No, we don't tonight, and that's my fault. I meant to include him in the discussion, and I failed to do that. So that is my failure. I'll make sure that he is available for December.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, do we have any unfinished business? Lots of congrats in the comments. That's great. Any new business? Any announcements?
Commissioner Cobia has new business.
Sorry. Please proceed.
Thanks. I just wanted to sort of bring this up as a topic of conversation in general, and I don't know that it's ripe for a motion or even what a motion would look like, but as we are getting closer and closer, it looks like, to potentially a new lockdown in Minnesota, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of the racial and sex-based disparities that are occurring specifically due to lockdown measures, in addition to what COVID, the disease, causes. I think it was at the beginning of the lockdowns in March, there was a study done by, I believe I don't know, I have NPR has a graph on it, but that said, was AmericanProgress.org, I don't know what that is, that only 1 in 5 Black Americans have a job that is capable of being done remotely, while 30% of white people do, and only 16% of Hispanic or Latino ethnicity people have the ability to work from home. So causing or requiring people to work from home has its own racial effect, in addition to, you know, the effects that are caused by the disease. And I think it's important to consider that. Also, recent studies and some media have been showing that women are abandoning the workforce at a rate, I believe in September, 4 times more women left the workforce than men. So there's a very sex-based disparate effect on women leaving the workforce due to lockdown effects, as well as, you know, COVID in general. But I think it's important to point out or keep in mind that there are things that the government does to, you know, keep us safe that are also having racially and sex bias results. So just a consideration. You know, I don't want to start any arguments about science or what's going on, but just something that I wanted to bring up and have people keep in mind. That's I guess
I
maybe.
like that. What would you propose? I mean, I saw those reports as well, and some even alluded to like a privilege tax, right? Where those who could stay home should pay or chip in somehow. I don't know that would fall on, I didn't know if that was a legitimate policy suggestion, but I didn't know if that would fall on the folks who can stay home, or would it fall on the employers or legislators? But what would you propose or have us do? You just want us to think about it.
Yeah, so for me, like if I were forced to come up with an action item, I think it would be to just notify the governor that, you know, he should be considering these disparate effects when taking action to lock down the population.
Okay. We can open up for comments, discussion. Commissioner Berquist, do you have a comment on that or any insight on that?
Not specifically, no.
Anyone else? Commissioner Stevens?
I like the idea of having some sort of action item, even if it is notifying the governor via, you know, some sort of document that talks about these disparate effects. I mean, you can talk about pretty much in every capacity, there's some sort of disparity. I mean, kids not having access to education, or not getting sick and not being able to quarantine in your multi-generational household, the domestic abuse rates skyrocketing. I think that there's a lot that could go into that. I think that it would, if we have some sort of action item, would it be useful to include recommendations to address them, if there are any, even if they're small ones?
Sure. My gut impulse says to invite you, Commissioner Cobia, to the CER meeting where maybe we can hash it out a little more. That would be my first thought, but.
Yeah, I'm happy to join that.
I think we do have the COVID-19 task force that I know hasn't done a whole lot other than gather information, but I think that would be a good task for that group, which might just be me now, actually.
You and I, kid, you and I. No disrespect there. All right. Commissioner Kobe, are you willing to join us?
Yes.
Okay, so then Commissioner Stevens will make sure that you get an invitation to that. Any other comments on that? Okay, so announcements. Looks like Commissioner Berquist had an announcement.
Yes, just in case anyone is interested, there will be on this Wednesday at 9 a.m. I guess it's being billed as a webinar, but the title is Anti-Black Racism and Police Brutality, Human Rights Defenders' Expectations from the United Nations Human Rights Council. It will have panelists from the United States, but as well as from Brazil, Jamaica, France, and Nigeria. And Spain. Sorry, I missed Spain. So it should be an interesting discussion. I have a conflict, so I'm not going to be able to attend, but I'll put the registration information in the chat if anyone wants to sign up. It's certainly relevant to the policing and civil rights working group or task force, and it's just something that's been shared through my network, so might be of interest.
Fantastic. Yes, please share it. And then thank you. Commissioner Stevens, are you able to grab that and share via email?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'll also paste the description in the chat as well, because the Zoom registration doesn't give much of a description.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Oh, there it is.
Got it.
That's awesome, because it's certainly a thing. Did I hear someone else?
No, I was just saying I got it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, commissioners. Well, I believe that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you all for your time. Please be careful, mask up, maintain social distancing, don't cough or breathe on nobody, and be safe. But that now concludes the Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay tuned for the executive board meeting.
Okay, well, we could dive right in, I believe. Let me see all of our chairs here. All right. Who's Andrew Hopkins? I should probably know this.
He's with the city.
Okay.
He's our chief of staff.
Ah.
Yep.
He's a good man
Sorry,
through
yeah,
and through.
Yeah, I'm the chief of staff for civil rights. I
Oh,
believe it
Wizard
was
of
my toddler
Oz is more like it. Okay.
yeah, I believe it was my toddler that knows how to unmute a mic that I learned when I left the room, and he shouted. So I'm immensely well. I'm not really sorry for the Vikings part. I'm sorry I cursed him with that fandom, but I'll leave it there. Like I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're gonna thank you for being here, Andrew. Appreciate it. Oh, look at you, Kate. Okay. All right, so we're gonna get started. As of our last meeting,